A naive mother from the countryside traveled to the city for the first time to celebrate her daughter's birthday. Unbeknownst to her, her daughter, harboring resentment, had given her a fake address. Following the false address, the naive mother arrived at a mansion. As she stepped inside, Go-Man emerged with 4 guard dogs, startling her. Yet, she remained oblivious to her mistake. Mistaking the plainly dressed woman for the new housekeeper, Go-Man instructed the in-house butler to let her in. Unwittingly, the naive mother's fate took a dramatic turn as she crossed the threshold. Awestruck by the mansion's opulence, Sun Young assumed her daughter had become wealthy. She even mistook the butler for one of her daughter's tenants. The butler, Mr. Kim, attempted to explain, but she brushed him off. Insisting a birthday needed balloons, she instructed him to inflate some, creating a festive atmosphere. Assuming it was for his employer's birthday, the butler complied, filling the room with balloons. Returning from his walk, Go-Man was puzzled by the abundance of balloons. The butler explained the new housekeeper's actions. Go-Man chuckled, then his expression soured. He scolded the butler, who had served him for over 20 years, for forgetting his birthday. Mid-reprimand, a delicious aroma wafted towards him. He turned to see a table laden with simple yet appetizing dishes. "My goodness, what a heavenly scent," he exclaimed. A wave of nostalgia washed over him as he recognized his favorite dish, seaweed soup with snails. As he reached for a spoonful, the naive mother stopped him. This was for her daughter's birthday. No one could taste it before her. Confused, Go-Man questioned why he couldn't eat the food prepared by the housekeeper he employed. Sun Young explained the soup was for her daughter, Lisa. Go-Man's confusion deepened. Unaware of Lisa's identity, he resented this unknown person preventing him from enjoying the soup. His desire for the soup intensified. Their clash of wills resulted in the entire pot of seaweed soup spilling onto the floor. Distraught over the loss of her daughter's favorite dish, the naive mother bit Go-Man's leg. This outburst finally revealed to Go-Man and the butler that she was not mentally sound. Go-Man ordered the butler to remove the crazy housekeeper. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of his entanglement with the naive mother. The butler took Sun Young to her daughter's company. Lisa, her face etched with disdain, took her mother directly to a psychiatric hospital. Confronted with the sight of patients with mental illnesses, Sun Young realized her daughter's intentions. Frightened, yet unwilling to burden her daughter, she feigned cheerfulness, saying, "This place is nice." Concerned about her daughter's busy schedule, she urged her to leave. Oblivious to her mother's longing for connection, Lisa coldly turned and walked away. After her daughter left, Sun Young huddled by the door, trembling with fear and uncertainty. Suddenly, she remembered the gifts she'd brought from the countryside. She rushed out, desperately calling her daughter's name. Hearing her mother's anguished cries, Lisa stopped and asked what the commotion was about. Sun Young presented her with star-shaped candy, her daughter's childhood favorite. "I made them myself," she said. Lisa accepted the candy and told her mother to go back inside. As she turned to leave, Sun Young mustered the courage to voice her only request, a visit when Lisa had time. Days passed with no visit. Sun Young began refusing to eat. The hospital contacted Lisa. In her delirium, Sun Young mumbled something her daughter had said 10 years prior. "When the pear blossoms bloom, my Lisa will return." Seeing her daughter, Sun Young's spirits lifted. Pointing to the wall, she said, "The pear blossoms have bloomed. My Lisa has truly returned." Lisa turned to see the wall covered in drawings of blossoming pear trees. "Lisa, now that you're in Seoul, when will you come back?" "When the pear trees in our orchard are in full bloom, I'll return." Lee Ha, a college friend, remarked, "Lisa, it seems your artistic talent is inherited from your sister." Lisa, ashamed of her intellectually disabled mother, had always introduced Sun Young as her older sister, maintaining this facade even in their private interactions. In that moment, Lisa finally understood the depth of her mother's longing. She decided to take her home. However, Sun Young refused, choosing to stay in the frightening psychiatric hospital. Sensing her mother's apprehension, Lisa privately asked why she wouldn't leave. Sun Young feared her son-in-law's disapproval, as he didn't know she was Lisa's mother. To her surprise, Lisa, shedding her pride, acknowledged their true relationship. Overjoyed, Sun Young, like a 2-year-old, hopped out of bed and packed her belongings. Seeing her mother's happiness brought a reassuring smile to Lisa's face. But she was unaware of the further strain her mother's arrival would place on her already fractured family. Returning from school, Dat Bile was startled to find a strange, simple-minded woman in her home. Unaware that this was her grandmother, she grabbed a pepper spray can, demanding the woman drop the knife she was holding and stay back. Sun Young complied, trying to explain their relationship. Dat Bile, having never heard of her mother having a sister, was confused. She didn't know that her mother, ashamed of her intellectually disabled mother, had always presented her as a sister. Seeing the adorable girl, Sun Young reached out for a hug. Instinctively, Dat Bile sprayed the pepper spray and escaped while Sun Young's eyes were stinging. Reaching her room, Dat Bile called her father. "Do I really have an aunt?" she asked. Young-do, also unaware of Sun Young's true identity, confirmed Lisa's sister, mentioning her intellectual disability. Dat Bile understood. The naive mother asked Dat Bile for something to soothe her burning eyes. Dat Bile, looking at her aunt, refused to answer, wanting nothing to do with her. Dat Bile called her father, urging him to come home quickly. Unaware, her father was on an outing with his new girlfriend. Young-do lied, saying he wanted to come home too, but because of that stupid mother, he couldn't. Dat Bile, oblivious to the impending divorce, blamed everything on her supposedly stupid mother. She then called her mother, who was working overtime, berating her for bringing a stupid person home without her permission, preventing her father from returning. How could her mother be so selfish? Lisa knew her husband had poisoned their daughter's mind. She confronted him, brandishing an ultrasound photo of Chenjin, his girlfriend's pregnancy. She threatened to expose the affair if he continued to drive a wedge between her and Dat Bile. She warned Young-do to stick to their agreement, act like a good father until Dat Bile left for Stanford in 3 months, at which point she would initiate the divorce. Otherwise, she would take the matter to court, a process that could take years, potentially preventing Ki-rin's child from being legally registered in his family registry. This hit Young-do where it hurt. He reluctantly agreed. Meanwhile, fueled by her father's words, Dat Bile's resentment towards her stupid mother intensified, prompting her to consider running away. Sun Young, having overheard Dat Bile's conversation with Lisa, was furious. She demanded to know why Dat Bile was speaking to her mother that way, scolding and threatening her with punishment if it happened again. Dat Bile, with her IQ of 200, felt humiliated by Sun Young's discipline, vowing to get rid of this stupid aunt. Just as this drama subsided, another wave crashed. Young-do's sister, Young-yoon, arrived unannounced and raided Lisa's closet, trying on designer clothes and bags, intending to take whatever she liked. Sun Young, witnessing this, mistook Young-yoon for a thief, tackling her onto the bed and headbutting her, causing a nosebleed. Only when Dat Bile arrived did she realize it was her aunt. Sun Young realized her mistake. While a smug Dat Bile ran to tell her mother, the stupid aunt caused a huge problem. Lisa rushed Young-yoon to the hospital. Young-yoon demanded compensation for her injured nose. Lisa calmly agreed to arrange plastic surgery and promised to give her the new clothes and bags, appeasing her. However, her mother-in-law was less forgiving. "You're quite clever, trapping my promising son with a pregnancy. I suspected it, but never imagined it would come to this. And you have a stupid mother? How could you deceive us for 10 years? A stupid mother can't possibly give birth to a genius daughter." Suspecting Dat Bile wasn't Lisa's biological child, her mother-in-law demanded a DNA test. Lisa tactfully refused this unreasonable request, only to be labeled uneducated. Her mother-in-law became more vicious, claiming her lack of education was the reason Young-do was desperate for a divorce. Facing her venomous mother-in-law, Lisa retorted, "I also desperately want a divorce from your son, Young-do. I'm only enduring this for my daughter. After Dat Bile goes to America, I'll send your son off with a grand farewell. Don't you worry." This almost caused her mother-in-law to faint from anger. As Lisa was leaving, she ran into Young-do. He berated her for threatening his mother and insulting his family, calling them all shameless. Insulting her was one thing, but insulting her family was a line she wouldn't let him cross. "My family has always been thick-skinned, but let me tell you, no matter how bad my family is, my mother didn't raise me to be beaten down by scum like you. Fine, let's divorce. I'll give you your divorce. We'll see each other in court tomorrow. Are you satisfied now?" Meanwhile, Sun Young was racked with guilt over the trouble she'd caused Lisa. Dat Bile, adding fuel to the fire, claimed her very presence was the source of the family's problems. Sun Young naively asked, "What can I do to help your parents reconcile?" Dat Bile, with malicious intent, saw her chance to get rid of the stupid aunt. go back to your hometown. If I leave, will my parents get back together? At least we should try. Okay, then I'll leave. Just like that, the naive Sun Young was ousted, left to wander the dark streets alone, weeping. Coincidentally, Ki-suk, missing Sun Young's cooking, had instructed Mr. Kim, the housekeeper, to find her address. He set out to find her. On his way, he spotted Sun Young walking down the road. Since her back was turned, he didn't recognize her, but he felt a sense of familiarity about her backside. Why do Korean women's behinds all look like they came from the same mold? Oh, that proud derriere. Returning home, Lisa learned from her daughter that Sun Young had left for her hometown. Furious, she scolded Dat Bile and rushed out to find her mother. Despite searching everywhere, Lisa couldn't find a trace of Sun Young. She frantically called her mother, but Sun Young, not wanting to cause further trouble, said, "Lisa, just hearing your voice is enough for me now. I know you get hurt when I'm around. But I still really want to be by your side. Now, it's not possible anymore." With that, she abruptly removed the phone's battery. As Lisa searched, she ran into Ki-suk. Upon learning of Sun Young's departure, and eager for another taste of her cooking, he and Mr. Kim split up to search for her. During his search, Ki-suk suddenly remembered the woman he'd seen on the road. That backside, it's exactly like Sun Young's when she first arrived. He realized it was her. Revealing an unexpectedly sharp mind, he pulled out his phone and began calculating. Sun Young is about 160 centimeters tall, with an average stride of 38 centimeters. Assuming 160 steps per minute. It's been roughly 30 minutes since I saw her. To reach the bus terminal, she would have passed 2 intersections. The probability of going straight at an intersection is 90%. Therefore, the distance Sun Young has traveled is 1,824 m. The average time to cross an intersection is 3 minutes. So the actual distance is 1,641.6 m. Thanks to this, Ki-suk pinpointed Sun Young's approximate location. He found her and tried to bring her back. When she refused, he persisted, only to be met with a knockout blow from Sun Young. Lisa and Mr. Kim arrived soon after. Mr. Kim took Ki-suk to the hospital. Lisa also found Sun Young huddled in a corner. After Sun Young was brought home, Dat Bile felt much more at ease knowing her foolish aunt was safe. But faced with her mother's scolding, she not only refused to admit her mistake, but also blamed her mother. "Why haven't you ever mentioned my foolish aunt to me before?" After arguing with her mother, Dat Bile stormed off to her room. Sun Young also felt incredibly guilty for causing the argument between mother and daughter. The next morning, Lisa took the paperwork and went to the courthouse with her husband to file for divorce. To appease Dat Bile, Mayan helped her set up a tent. Although she acted disdainful in front of Sun Young, she actually really liked the tent her foolish aunt made for her. Sun Young also made her a lavish dinner, gently picking food for her. Suddenly having an aunt who cared for her, Dat Bile gradually let down her guard around Sun Young. Their relationship eased somewhat. But as soon as one wave subsided, another one came crashing in. That evening, while cleaning Lisa's room and helping her organize her things, Sun Young stumbled upon the divorce agreement. After reading the contents, a look of fear and unease washed over her face. The next morning, Ki-suk visited Sun Young again, wanting to invite her to work as a chef at his house. Lisa used the excuse that her mother would be returning to her hometown in a few days to decline his offer. Even though Ki-suk increased the salary from 2.5 million won to 8 million won, he still couldn't get Lisa to agree. Butler Kim had to drag the reluctant Ki-suk away. When Lisa realized her mother wasn't home, she asked her daughter. She then learned that her mother had gone out to find her son-in-law early that morning. The fact that her mother suddenly took the initiative to find her son-in-law immediately made Lisa think of the divorce agreement. She opened her bag and discovered the agreement was missing. She rushed to her ex-husband's house. Dat Bile frantically called her foolish aunt to tell her the news, but found that her aunt had left her phone at home. At the same time, Dat Bile accidentally discovered the divorce agreement in her aunt's bag. After opening it and reading it, she was utterly shocked. Meanwhile, Sun Young had arrived at her son-in-law's house. As soon as Young-do saw his mother-in-law, his face turned pale, and he took several steps back, clearly terrified. Why was he so afraid? It turned out that 10 years ago, when Young-do wanted to call off the wedding, Sun Young, in a fit of rage, had come to him with a knife, rope, and poison. Then, Right in front of Youngdu, she drank the poison. Faced with Sun Young's life-threatening actions, Youngdu had no choice but to marry Lisa. This time, Sun Young came to him with a different kind of fury, making Youngdu break out in a cold sweat. Dat Bile, staring at the divorce agreement in front of her, couldn't calm down for a long time. Tears of sorrow streamed down her face. The gifted daughter, resentful because of her parents' divorce. With tears in her eyes, she taped the divorce agreement to the wall in protest. After ransacking her room, she ran away from home. When Lisa arrived at her ex-husband's house, she found her foolish mother not causing a scene or making a fuss. Instead, she was kneeling on the ground humbly begging Youngdu to remarry her daughter. Lisa felt utterly humiliated by her mother's desperate act. She angrily scolded her mother and chased her out of the house. But she was mocked by Youngdu's mistress. Lisa initially intended to let it go and leave quietly. However, the mistress provoked her. A family full of fools, so thick-skinned and shameless, how could they produce such a gifted daughter like Dat Bile? Unbelievable. And Youngdu claimed he never wanted to be a father, that he'd only been forcing himself. These words infuriated Lisa. Tomorrow, I'm going to the court to withdraw the divorce petition. You better get your money ready for a lawsuit. Lisa's declaration about withdrawing the divorce petition alarmed Cherry. She hurriedly called Lisa back, wanting to talk. But all she received were Lisa's furious retorts. I don't have the energy to listen to you right now. Shut your mouth and go talk to your husband. Seeing her daughter's distress, Sun Young tried to comfort her, but Lisa rejected her. She poured all her humiliation and resentment onto her mother. Get out, leave me alone. I said get out, leave me alone, don't come near me. Sun Young's kindness was neither appreciated nor acknowledged by Lisa. She believed her mother's foolish actions were the reason for her humiliation. So, halfway through their journey, she angrily kicked her mother out of the car. Consumed by rage, Lisa's heart darkened further. She wished her foolish mother would disappear from this world. Even if she herself fell into hell, she just wanted her foolish mother to stop affecting her life. Although Sun Young had an intellectual disability, she understood that her daughter kicking her out of the car meant she wanted her gone. She also wanted to disappear, but not yet. She wanted to make Lisa smile before she vanished. Feeling immense guilt, Sun Young suddenly spotted a police car. She stopped it and explained she was lost, begging the officers to take her home. Upon arriving home, Sun Young immediately called Lisa to inform her that Dat Bile had run away. When Lisa learned that her mother's carelessness had led to Dat Bile discovering the divorce agreement, she was devastated. She blamed her guilt-ridden, foolish mother once again and felt that bringing her mother home had been a mistake. After being abandoned by her husband, she felt her daughter was her only reason to live. Without her daughter, she wouldn't want to live anymore. As the mother and daughter frantically searched for Dat Bile, Lisa suddenly received a call from her daughter. It turned out Dat Bile had an adult friend named Zui Hyan. He was a very understanding person. Knowing that Dat Bile running away would worry her family, Zui Hyan had hung Dat Bile from a pull-up bar until Lisa came to pick her up. Although Dat Bile was brought home, she remained angry. She believed her mother's mistakes were the reason she was losing her father. Lisa told her daughter that she and her father wouldn't divorce. This time, she had gone to see her father to withdraw the divorce petition. This somewhat changed Dat Bile's attitude towards her. From her mother, Dat Bile learned that her foolish aunt had returned home because her brother was in jail. Wanting to get her foolish aunt to leave quickly, Dat Bile remembered the business card Go-Man had left. She decided to take Sun Young to the rich man's house to work and earn money to get her brother out of jail. She thoughtfully helped her aunt choose clothes and personally did her makeup. Lisa was completely unaware of what was happening. Seeing the usually clashing aunt and niece suddenly getting along, her scarred heart finally felt some relief. But what she didn't know was that Sun Young's actions would completely expose their mother-daughter relationship. Dat Bile took Sun Young to Go-Man's house and encouraged him to try the lavish spread of food prepared in advance. To her delight, one bite sent him into a dreamy state, as if he'd stepped into a culinary paradise. Seizing the opportunity, Dat Bile whipped out a contract with an exorbitant daily rate of 500,000 won. Go-Man, captivated by the delicious food, agreed to her terms without hesitation. However, he had one condition. Sun Young had to provide personal information and documentation. He wanted to confirm that she had no history of infectious diseases and, understandably, couldn't hire a caregiver with an unclear background. After Dat Bile and Sun Young obtained the necessary identification documents, Dat Bile stumbled upon a shocking secret. She discovered that her mother, Sun Young, was born 4 years after her grandfather's death. This was impossible. She realized Sun Young wasn't her grandfather's daughter. When asked if Lisa had another mother, Sun Young panicked. Lisa had always told others that Sun Young was her older sister. If Dat Bile uncovered the truth, their relationship would be irrevocably damaged. She hastily called a taxi, attempting to change the subject. However, Dat Bile closed the car door, leaving Sun Young to walk home alone. Dat Bile then rushed to her father's company, retrieved Sun Young's documents, and confronted him. The despicable man immediately realized the truth. Lisa was an illegitimate child. He had been desperately searching for leverage in their divorce proceedings, and this discovery was like finding a lifeline. By submitting this evidence to the court, he could win the case on grounds of marriage fraud. He immediately called Lisa, hurling insults and hoping to pressure her into a quiet divorce. "Who are you? Whose daughter are you really? Is that idiot Kim Sun Young your mother? Is that stupid Kim Sun Young your real mother?" The secret Lisa had painstakingly hidden for decades was exposed by her treacherous ex-husband and her unwitting daughter. Upon learning that her mother's housekeeping job had led to the revelation, Lisa furiously berated Sun Young for her stupidity in taking Dat Bile to get the documents. She warned Sun Young to stay away from Dat Bile, demanding she remember her place as her younger sister. To preserve her image as a mother in her daughter's eyes, Lisa declared, "Even in death, I will never admit I'm your mother." Lisa's cruel words filled Sun Young with remorse. The form of address didn't matter to her. She simply wanted to be close to her daughter. But her repeated mistakes had thrown her daughter's life into chaos. Meanwhile, Young-do, wanting to confirm his suspicions, visited his brother-in-law, Nam-per, in jail. He promised to secure Nam-per's release on the condition that he confirm Lisa was Sun Young's daughter and sign a confession admitting to family collusion in marriage fraud. Lisa had finally saved enough money to bail out her brother. However, she received a notification. Someone had already paid the settlement. Learning it was her ex-husband, she could only hope her brother would keep quiet. Her hopes were dashed. Upon arriving at the jail, she ran into her ex-husband. The paperwork was already finalized. Lisa probed his reasons for visiting her brother, but Young-do immediately exposed her. "You're so cruel. How could you turn your own mother into your sister? That foolish woman, Sun Young, isn't your sister, she's your mother. Because she's an idiot, you abandoned her?" Her ex-husband mocked her lack of humanity. Even murderers on death row sought their mothers, yet Lisa, confronted with the truth, continually denied her mother's existence. Young-do threatened to use this information to ruin her reputation and destroy her image in her daughter's eyes. Despite Lisa's pleas, he remained unmoved. Desperate to maintain her righteous image in her daughter's eyes, Lisa even went to her ex-husband's company, begging him to drop the divorce suit. He met her with cold derision. "You're a shameless woman. You claim Dat Bile is the most important person to you, but your pride comes first. Your pride is far more important than Dat Bile. You're a fake." Lisa admitted that her pride had driven her to beg him. But for her daughter's sake, she hoped he would help her conceal the secret. Moved by her pleas, Young-do offered a compromise. He demanded she sign a guarantee promising not to contest the divorce, which would be finalized in 3 months. To prevent the truth from coming out, Lisa reluctantly signed the agreement. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. After D-Young's release from prison, he sought out Sun Young, who then led him to Lisa's house. That day, D-Young took Dat Bile out. Overwhelmed by debt, he drank himself into a stupor. He even called Lisa demanding money, but she coldly refused. D-Young accused her of being ungrateful, using the truth about Sun Young being her mother as leverage to force her compliance. Hearing this sensitive topic, a frightened Lisa hurriedly hung up the phone. However, Dat Bile had overheard the entire conversation. When D-Young noticed a stunned Dat Bile standing frozen in shock, he realized he'd let the secret slip. But it was too late. After learning the truth, the girl was deeply disappointed by her mother's actions, believing Lisa to be cold and heartless. Lisa, however, continued to insist that Sun Young was her sister. Hearing her mother's callous response, Dat Bile burst into tears. "When you call Aunt Sun Young's sister instead of mom, it must hurt her just like this. From now on, I won't be your daughter anymore. From now on, I'll call you Miss Lisa." After saying this, Dat Buell hung up and ran into the street, oblivious to the heavy traffic. Lisa, panicked, rushed to protect her daughter. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. Everything before her eyes blurred. Finally, she collapsed and lost consciousness. At that moment, Dat Buell's friend Soo Hyun ran over and caught the unconscious Lisa. He yelled for Dat Buell to call an ambulance. Consumed by her disappointment, Dat Buell hesitated. Soo Hyun tried to revive Lisa, but she remained unresponsive. After a moment of indecision, Dat Buell called her mother's college friend, Ji-ha. With the help of a delivery truck, Lisa was rushed to the hospital. But her blood pressure was gone. Despite her disappointment, Dat Buell was still worried about her mother. She called Ji-ha, pleading with him to save Lisa's life. Ji-ha nodded, assuring her that Lisa would be all right. Although a neurosurgeon, Ji-ha insisted on performing the emergency procedure himself. He performed CPR on Lisa, coordinating the emergency preparations. It turned out Ji-ha had always harbored secret feelings for Lisa. As he performed CPR, he anxiously called her name, willing her to wake up. Countless memories flooded Ji-ha's mind, starting from their first meeting in college. He had been smitten with her. After getting to know each other, they talked, shared, and spent happy times together. When Ji-ha finally decided to confess his feelings, he discovered she already had a boyfriend. Since then, he could only silently stay by her side. It had been that way for over a decade. Despite repeated CPR and defibrillation attempts, Lisa's heartbeat showed no signs of recovery. But Ji-ha refused to give up. Tears streamed down his face as he continued to use the defibrillator, pouring all his energy into saving the woman he loved. Finally, as a heartfelt tear landed on Lisa's cheek, her heartbeat miraculously returned. Ji-ha's heart, which had been hanging in the balance, finally settled. Although her mother had just brushed with death, Dat Buell still hadn't forgiven her. She couldn't let go of Lisa coldly calling her birth mother sister. In her frustration, she ran away from the hospital. Soo Hyun tried to persuade Dat Buell to forgive her mother. But Dat Buell felt like she was just a toy to her mother. What if I wasn't a genius? What if I was like her? What if I wasn't unlike my grandmother, born a fool, intellectually disabled? Would Mom have abandoned me too? Despite her resentful words, Dat Buell still missed her loving mother. She called her father, informing him of her mother's condition and asking him to visit the hospital. But Young-do used work as an excuse to decline Dat Buell's request. Meanwhile, Ji-ha learned about Lisa's true condition. It turned out that Lisa's collapse wasn't simply due to emotional distress. She had cardiomyopathy. She had at most 6 months left to live. A heart transplant was her only chance, but the success rate was only 10%. If she experienced another emotionally induced collapse, even the greatest doctor wouldn't be able to save her. Her daughter came to her house seeking help, waiting miserably outside for half an hour. However, due to Ki-rin's objections, Young-do didn't open the door for her. Left with no other choice, Young-do passed his daughter off to her grandmother. But the grandmother constantly taunted Dat Buell, frequently using her to mock Lisa. Look at what she's doing. Why is she so annoying, just like her mother? The grandmother's cruelty reminded Dat Buell of her Aunt Sun Young. Aunt Sun Young always knew what she liked, even without her saying anything. Meanwhile, Sun Young had stayed at Go-man's house the previous night, cooking late and therefore unaware of the unfolding drama at home. The next day, before heading home, she thanked Mr. Kim, the housekeeper, for the headband he'd gifted her. Their friendly, cheerful conversation displeased Ki-rin. Mr. Kim even offered to drive Sun Young home. "Hey, why are you taking that car? I want to take Miss Sun Young home." "What? Is this your car? Do you pay for the gas? I bought this car, and I pay for the gas with my card." In reality, after spending time together, Go-man had developed feelings for Sun Young. Seeing Mr. Kim put his arm around Sun Young, intending to walk her home, Go-man quickly intervened. He used work as an excuse, ordering Mr. Kim to feed the dog. As Sun Young prepared to walk home herself, Go-man stammered, "Not taking the car? If you take the bus now, you won't be back in time for dinner." He then took off his pajamas, revealing he had already dressed underneath, prepared to drive Sun Young home. As Go-man drove Sun Young home in his luxury car, her younger brother, D-young, fearing his sister's reprimand, frantically gathered Lisa's valuables, planning to escape while she was away. However, Sun Young returned at that very moment, catching him red-handed. After scolding her brother, she learned that Dat Buell knew their secret. Although intellectually disabled, Sun Young understood the devastating impact this would have on Lisa. She cried, berating her brother for being a fool. But her complaints couldn't change reality. Not wanting Lisa to be upset by seeing her, Sun Young decided to take Di Young back to their hometown. But the next morning, Di Young left a note and slipped away. Without her brother to guide her home, Sun Young had to stay. Distraught over the decades-old secret being revealed, Sun Young lost all motivation for work. She asked Go-Man to resign. "Who said you could quit?" "No, I won't allow it." As Go-Man tried to persuade Sun Young to stay, Young-do and Ki-rin arrived with her father to visit him. It turned out Ki-rin's father was one of Go-Man's managers. He, however, had a poor impression of Ki-rin. Upon seeing her, he remarked, "Ki-rin, why have you become so old and ugly?" As Young-do was introducing himself, trying to establish a connection, a loud gasp echoed through the room. To everyone's surprise and Sun Young's shock, she found herself face to face with the very man who had abandoned her. Their eyes met. Young-do hiccuped uncontrollably in fear. Ki-rin had brought her boyfriend to Go-Man's house to network, unaware that her boyfriend's ex-wife and child's aunt worked there as a housekeeper. Upon seeing his former mother-in-law, Young-do's eyes widened, and he started hiccuping uncontrollably. Go-Man, standing beside them, was puzzled by Sun Young's intense stare at the man. Harboring secret feelings for her, Go-Man immediately became jealous. He thought Young-do wasn't as handsome as him, yet he had captured Sun Young's heart. After some questioning, Go-Man learned about Young-do and Sun Young's past relationship. He also discovered that Young-do was a scoundrel, abandoning Lisa to marry Ki-rin. Because of this, Sun Young stubbornly refused to cook for Ki-rin. Seeing the woman he admired being mistreated, Go-Man couldn't contain his anger. He already disliked Ki-rin for trying to cozy up to him. To help the woman he loved get revenge, he devised a plan that wouldn't embarrass him in front of acquaintances but would allow Sun Young to vent her anger. Go-Man told Sun Young to cook immediately and to make it especially delicious. Then, he gave her a bottle of laxatives, instructing her to add them to the food. Sun Young, with her limited understanding, didn't know what laxatives were. Go-Man explained that it was medicine that would soothe her bleeding heart. Sun Young seemed to quickly grasp the idea. She prepared a table full of delicious, appealing food. Go-Man invited everyone to start eating. However, Young-do and Ki-rin, wary of Sun Young, hesitated to pick up their chopsticks. In contrast, Ki-rin's father, eyeing the delicious spread, immediately began to devour the food, even scolding his daughter for not digging in with the same gusto, considering Go-Man's generous hospitality. True to her cunning nature, Ki-rin lied, claiming they had already snacked heavily and weren't hungry. Go-Man promptly produced a bottle of laxatives, assuring them that after taking one with their meal, they could even swallow the plate. Hesitantly, Young-do took one pill. However, Go-Man insisted that out of respect for him, they should take at least 3 or 4. Young-do reluctantly swallowed 3 more. Go-Man then turned his attention to Ki-rin, remarking that she looked fake and unattractive, demanding she take at least 6. Trebin, upon hearing this, immediately swallowed a handful. Go-Man turned to Sun Young and smiled. Noticing that Go-Man hadn't touched his food, Young-do asked, "Why aren't you eating?" Butler Kim quickly explained that Go-Man had a late breakfast. Realizing his slip-up, he fell silent. Trebin immediately offered Go-Man the laxatives. Go-Man paled, but to avoid suspicion, he swallowed the remaining pills. As expected, Go-Man was the first to experience the effects of the laxatives as soon as the meal ended. After enduring the farewells, he rushed inside, locked the door, clamped his legs together, and bolted for the bathroom. The other 3 had barely walked away when their stomachs began to churn. Ki-rin's father could barely stand. The couple turned back towards the house, hoping to use the restroom, but were frantically pushed away by her father. He pleaded with Go-Man to open the door, unaware of Go-Man's predicament. With a final push, he lost control of his bowels. The couple suffered a similar fate. The only word to describe their feeling, especially Young-do's, was excruciating. Go-Man had helped Sun Young get her revenge. Grateful, Sun Young prepared plum tea for him, instructing him to drink it after leaving the bathroom. Touched by her concern, Go-Man smiled happily. This was what they called karma. Dat Buell, having discovered her mother's abandonment of her grandmother, now wanted to sever ties with Lisa. She gave Lisa an ultimatum, to acknowledge her grandmother as her mother and call her mom in front of Dat Buell. Only then would she be forgiven. Lisa was torn. She still remembered the moment, at 10 years old, when she tearfully called Sun Young mom, only to be rejected. With tears in her eyes, Lisa refused her daughter's demand, admitting she was ashamed of having a stupid mother. She explained that having a stupid mother had subjected her to ridicule, that Sun Young was incapable of helping her, and only caused chaos in her life. She declared that even in death, she would never call Sun Young mom, but only sister. Lisa kept the full truth from Dat Buell. The young girl was shocked by her mother's cruelty. She reasoned that if she were stupid like her grandmother, her mother wouldn't be proud, as she was of her intelligence, but would instead abandon her out of shame. Hurt once again, Dat Buell told her mother never to seek her out again, declaring her intention to live with her father. She stormed off. As Lisa tried to follow, her heart condition flared up, preventing her from getting up. Unbeknownst to Dat Buell, if her mother didn't receive a heart transplant soon, she wouldn't live much longer. Dat Buell left without a backward glance. Dat Buell then sought out Sun Young, who was working as a nanny at Go-man's house, and called her grandma. Flustered, Sun Young patted her head pretending not to hear, insisting she was Lisa's sister and asking to be called Unni older sister. Dat Buell tearfully watched her grandmother's confused state. She sighed, trying to reassure Sun Young that this was reality and avoidance wouldn't solve anything. Seeing Sun Young's distress, Go-man quickly instructed butler Kim to take her away. Upon learning the relationship between the three, Go-man was stunned, then angry, scolding Dat Buell for treating Sun Young poorly knowing she was her grandmother. He asked if she too despised Sun Young for being stupid. Dat Buell, feeling wronged, explained that she didn't hate her grandmother, but pitied her. She missed her and had come to see her. Because Lisa had abandoned Sun Young, Dat Buell wanted to apologize on her mother's behalf. Go-man was deeply touched by Dat Buell's explanation, tears welling in his eyes. Faced with Dat Buell's questioning, Sun Young revealed the truth. Tearfully, she confessed that she had prevented Lisa from calling her mom, so she could remarry and pursue a happy life. She admitted to abandoning her daughter, reiterating the claim that from Lisa's birth to her death, she would remain her sister. Even when Lisa, at 10 years old, discovered the truth and wanted to acknowledge her as her mother, Sun Young had insisted on being called sister. The stupid mother sobbed, blaming herself for selfishly prioritizing her own happiness over Lisa's well-being. Dat Buell, however, refused to believe her, still convinced that Lisa rejected Sun Young because of her perceived stupidity. She challenged Sun Young, pointing out that even after remarrying and returning to their hometown, Lisa still refused to acknowledge her as her mother. Dat Buell believed Sun Young was simply parroting what Lisa had told her. She challenged Sun Young to confront Lisa and forbid her from calling her sister any longer. Sun Young was speechless. Watching Dat Buell storm off in anger, Sun Young realized her mistake. She had believed that maintaining the sister facade would ensure Lisa's happiness, but instead, it had driven a wedge between Lisa and her daughter. Regretting how her good intentions had been misinterpreted, she urged Go-man to take her to the hospital to see the ailing Lisa and reconcile. However, upon seeing her, Lisa cruelly told her to return to her hometown. Lisa blamed Sun Young's appearance for Dat Buell's rejection. Unable to forgive her, she wanted Sun Young out of her life. "Now, you are neither sister nor mother to me. It's all right if we never see each other again while we're alive. So, please just go back home, okay?" Guilt-ridden, Sun Young tearfully left. Though they clearly cared for each other, neither mother nor daughter could express their true feelings. On the way back, a remorseful Sun Young confided in Go-man. She blamed her ignorance and foolishness for having Lisa, leading to their current predicament. In despair, she revealed the truth about Lisa's birth. After being assaulted and becoming pregnant, her own mother, out of love and concern, had taken the newborn Lisa away. Despite Sun Young's pleas, her mother had refused to return the baby. Her mother had argued that Lisa, born without a father, would be stigmatized as an illegitimate child. To protect Lisa from the ridicule and bullying she herself had endured, Sun Young had agreed to treat Lisa as her younger sister. However, this decision had only complicated Lisa's life further. Oblivious to Go-man's feelings, Sun Young, in her simple-mindedness, took his hand, assuming it would prevent her from getting lost. Go-man's face lit up with happiness. But as the moment lingered, he realized this wasn't the connection he craved. Suddenly angry, he pushed Sun Young's hand away. Go-man, a perpetual bachelor, found himself on what he believed to be his first date, hand in hand with Sun Young. He felt strangely detached. Wasn't this supposed to be love? He wondered if Sun Young wasn't his type after all. Voicing his doubt, then abruptly changing the subject, he inadvertently angered Sun Young, who was already burdened with grocery shopping. Go-Man, stubbornly seated on the ground, refused to move. Sun Young, exasperated, gave him a swift kick in the rear. This unexpected act sparked something in Go-Man. As he watched Sun Young walk away, he became captivated, as if transported to a celestial realm. He realized Sun Young's allure stemmed from her treatment of him. The initial lack of sparks suddenly made sense. Go-Man, it turned out, was aroused by Sun Young's somewhat abusive behavior, not typical romantic gestures. He was, in a strange way, smitten. Sun Young, with her limited intellect and challenging life, had somehow found a man uniquely suited to her. At the market, Sun Young expertly selected ingredients, her discerning eye picking out the finest herbs and produce. Go-Man was baffled. How could someone with an IQ of 50 possess such culinary expertise? Sun Young explained that as a child, hydrocephalus had limited her cognitive abilities. Her father, determined to help her, quit his job and sought treatments, to no avail. He then resorted to studying traditional medicine, taking her into the mountains to forage for herbs, thus imparting to her an extensive knowledge of medicinal plants. Go-Man, hearing her story, fell deeper in love. Seizing the moment, he embraced her. Just then, his housekeeper called. Startled, Go-Man fell to the ground. He was about to berate the housekeeper for interrupting such a perfect moment when he learned that Dat Buell had solved a complex math problem. Incredulous, he raced home. The perfectly executed solution shook him. Even he, a math prodigy, hadn't solved it until he was 8. Dat Buell, at 7, had not only solved it but done so faster. He was desperate to talk to her, but she had already been summoned by her father, Young-do. Meanwhile, Cherry, begrudgingly tasked with buying Dat Buell clothes, seized an opportunity while Young-do was out. She cruelly manipulated Dat Buell, planting the idea that her mother couldn't afford to care for her. This further deepened Dat Buell's misunderstanding of Lisa, leading her to choose to live with her flawed father, unaware that his assistant was actually her stepmother, Ki-rin. Exploring a locked room, Dat Buell discovered baby clothes, toys, and an ultrasound image, revealing Young-do's secret. Confronting Ki-rin, Dat Buell understood the truth from Ki-rin's panicked reaction. Ki-rin frantically called Young-do, informing him that his good dad facade had crumbled. Young-do, furious, rushed home and berated Ki-rin for her stupidity. His motivation for keeping Dat Buell wasn't paternal love, but fear that Lisa would use the knowledge of his new family to demand increased child support. Amidst their argument, Dat Buell ran away. When she called, Young-do feigned concern, urging her to return. Dat Buell asked if he divorced her mother because of Ki-rin's pregnancy. He lied, claiming the ultrasound wasn't of his child, but of Ki-rin's with another man, forcing Ki-rin to corroborate his story. Ironically, Young-do was unaware that the child Ki-rin carried wasn't his either. Seeing Ki-rin hesitate, knowing only she knew the true paternity of the child, Dat Buell pressed her. Ki-rin, desperate to find someone to pin the pregnancy on, fabricated a lie. Yes, it was someone else's child. But Dat Buell, recognizing the handwriting and date on the ultrasound as belonging to her father, didn't believe her. The truth crashed down on Dat Buell. She had misjudged her mother. Lisa hadn't abandoned her. While the reason remained unclear, her mother hadn't lied. Dat Buell remembered Lisa's parting words. Yeon-do has heart disease. If she doesn't find a suitable donor, she doesn't have much time left. I have to leave you with your father for a while. Lisa had hidden her illness, promising to return for Dat Buell when she was better. Misinterpreting her mother's words, Dat Buell had severed their bond, choosing her deceitful father instead. Now, knowing the truth, she worried about her mother's health. Rushing to Lisa's company, guilt washed over her as she recalled her callous indifference to her mother's roadside collapse. Overwhelmed, she stopped, unsure how to face Lisa, and wept. Young-do, after hours of searching, called Lisa, asking if Dat Buell was with her. Lisa, furious, demanded an explanation. Young-do confessed that Dat Buell had learned about Lisa's pregnant employee. Frantic, Lisa searched for her daughter, unknowingly passing her on the street. With nowhere to go, Dat Buell sought refuge with her grandmother, Go-man's housekeeper. Seeing her, Dat Buell broke down, consumed by remorse. Her grandmother, however, blamed herself, comforting Dat Buell, saying her presence had disrupted Lisa's life. Go-man and his housekeeper, witnessing their embrace, were deeply moved, sharing a comforting hug themselves. Meanwhile, Lisa, still searching, confronted Youngdu, blaming him for not watching Dat Buell. He dismissed her concerns, confident in Dat Buell's intelligence. He was more worried about Ki-rin's baby, even blaming Lisa's illness for his having to care for Dat Buell. Stunned, Lisa finally revealed the truth. Ki-rin's baby isn't yours. She's just looking for someone to take responsibility. She urged him to get a paternity test, revealing she knew about his infertility, a secret she had kept for 4 years to protect his pride. Now, with their divorce looming, she had nothing left to lose. The next day, learning Dat Buell was with her grandmother, Lisa rushed to Go-man's house. A worried Youngdu went for the paternity test. The doctor's words devastated him. Drunk, he confronted Ki-rin, demanding to know the father's identity. Unfazed, she retorted, "So what? What do you expect me to do? Abort it because it's not yours? Of course, I'm keeping it. Why should I act like a father if it's not my child? Can you even have children?" Enraged, Youngdu realized his folly. Leaving his wife and child for Ki-rin had backfired spectacularly. He blamed Lisa for telling Ki-rin about his infertility. Ki-rin, in turn, accused Lisa of setting Youngdu up. She vowed revenge. Oblivious to this impending storm, Lisa planned a wedding dress show for single mothers, reflecting on her own mother's unwavering love. She decided to embrace her mother's intellectual disability, publicly acknowledging her at the show. Looking at the lunchbox her mother had packed, she felt a surge of love and gratitude. But her ex-husband and Ki-rin unexpectedly crossed paths again, gathering together and plotting to get revenge on Lisa at the performance. They wanted to expose the fact that Lisa refused to acknowledge her intellectually disabled mother in public, so everyone would know Lisa was an ungrateful and disloyal woman. Unaware of this scheme, Lisa had even sent a special invitation to her mother. Receiving the invitation, her mother was so excited she was speechless. She happily clutched the invitation to her chest, beaming like a 2-year-old child. This was not only the first time Lisa had actively invited her, but also the first time Lisa had chosen to accept her. Tears welled up in her eyes. Dat Buell, seeing her grandmother so happy and recognized, beamed with joy as well. Before the event started, Dat Buell even carefully selected an outfit for her grandmother. Her mother was instantly transformed from a simple country woman into a beautiful white swan. Go-man was completely shocked when he saw her. His heart began to race. Seeing her radiantly beautiful, Go-man resolved to marry her at any cost. Just as Lisa was about to tell everyone at the event that she had an intellectually disabled mother, Ki-rin appeared and caused trouble. She cut off Lisa's microphone and then, with a smug look, played a recording. Hearing the recording claim she was Lisa's mother, she became anxious and asked Dat Buell where the person speaking was. She didn't want Lisa to be ridiculed for having an intellectually disabled mother, so she referred to her mother as her older sister. Hearing the recording, Lisa's chest began to ache. What she hadn't been ready to say herself had been revealed by Ki-rin. Lisa was completely devastated. Her mother was even more overwhelmed by the anger in her heart, shouting that she had refused to acknowledge her daughter only so Lisa could live a better life. Lisa finally understood the torment her mother had endured for so many years. Her mother had done it all for her own good, not wanting her to be ridiculed like her intellectually disabled mother. Seeing his beloved so heartbroken, Go-man was no longer the humorous man he usually was. Suppressing his anger, he slowly rose and walked towards her. He embraced her in a warm hug, more certain than ever that she was the woman he wanted to protect for the rest of his life. Seeing that she had achieved her goal, Ki-rin signaled for the staff to turn Lisa's microphone back on. This time, Lisa no longer felt ashamed of her mother. Fighting back the pain in her chest, she told everyone her mother's story. "The woman who gave birth to me, as you can see, is intellectually disabled. Not just intellectually disabled with an IQ under 70, but she also gave birth to me when she was only 16 years old. Yes, because I have a mother like that, I felt ashamed, and I even wanted to erase her from my memory. But this mother gave me everything she had. So today, I confess everything to you all. I hope that from now on, I can be a daughter who doesn't disappoint her mother." Lisa sincerely hoped her mother wouldn't pay attention to the way other people saw her, only wanting to honestly call her mother Mom. In reality, her mother didn't care what her daughter followed in everything. Seeing Lisa open her heart, she was content. Lisa's heartfelt words brought tears to everyone's eyes, and they immediately stood and applauded. Clearly, they hadn't fallen for Ki-rin's trap and misunderstood Lisa. Instead, they were moved by the two women's journey from misunderstanding to gradually opening their hearts to each other. At this moment, Lisa couldn't bear the chest pain any longer. She didn't want her daughter and mother in the audience to see her heart condition flare up. She dragged her tired and sad body away from the scene, to a place where no one could see her. She couldn't keep going and fainted. After being taken to the hospital, Lisa was conscious, but she needed an immediate synchronous heart surgery. However, surgery was just a temporary measure. If she didn't receive a heart transplant, Lisa wouldn't last more than 3 months. Jiha was informed that if they wanted to save Lisa, they needed to perform a heart transplant as soon as possible. Elsewhere, Sun Young suddenly felt a headache because of the commotion at the event. Go-man, who was always obsessed with Sun Young's delicious cooking, assumed she felt that way because she had cried for a long time, but he didn't know that bad news was coming. Wanting to make her grandmother happy, Dat Buell took the love letter that her mother had written and read its contents in her mother's voice. So, now, I want to start over from the beginning. Not as that dumb older sister, like for the past 30 years, but as your dumb mom, your real mom. Even dumber, your mom who loves you to the point of being a fool. That's me. Just like when she was little, under the pear tree, there was a day I called her that too, Mom. Hearing her daughter's heartfelt confession about her, Sun Young once again couldn't hold back tears of happiness. She begged Go-man to take her to visit Lisa. But when Dat Buell contacted her mother, it was Jiha who answered the phone. After Go-man learned that Jiha was a doctor, he immediately remembered the scene of Lisa being supported that day. He quickly grabbed the phone and signaled for Sun Young to take Dat Buell to get ready to visit Lisa. Something's happened to Lisa, hasn't it? I'm Dat Buell and Lisa's guardian, so you need to tell me the truth. Yes, Lisa's condition is very serious right now. Knowing that Lisa's condition was serious, Go-man immediately lost his composure. He immediately decided to go find the hospital director tomorrow. After finding the director, Go-man learned that if Lisa didn't receive a heart transplant, she wouldn't last more than 3 months. Go-man was also told that although a heart transplant would offer a chance to save Lisa's life, there were currently many patients on the waiting list. The director estimated that Lisa might have to wait more than 6 months for a heart. Oh, this is really screwed up. A patient who only has 3 months left to live, how can she wait 6 months? Although wealthy enough to cause a wall to crack, Go-man was helpless in the face of a life slipping away. At the same time, Jiha told Lisa the same thing. Only 3 months to live, but having to wait over half a year. Lisa fell into despair again. I really don't have time left. I don't have the chance to be a good mother to Dat Buell, and I don't have the chance to call Sun Young mom. My time is running out, and I don't want to keep wasting time sitting here, so I want to visit Dat Buell and Sun Young, so Lisa can happily spend these 3 months. Jiha respected her request, but as they were preparing to leave the hospital, they suddenly encountered Go-man. Go-man asked Lisa to move into his house. Spend these remaining 3 months with your loved ones, so please, move into our house immediately. Eat together, sleep together, mess around together, live like that for once, and then go. Lisa didn't expect that a stranger could understand her feelings. Faced with Go-man's sincere invitation, Lisa felt very touched, and at the same time, felt regret for her short lifespan. With Go-man's help, the cracks in the hearts of the 3 women were finally healed. In order not to worry Dat Buell and Sun Young, Go-man and Lisa didn't tell them about her illness. Like this, the mother and daughter who hadn't acknowledged each other in over a decade, slept in the same bed for the first time, happily talking about their mother-daughter relationship. Lisa asked Sun Young to give her some time. When the knot in her heart was untied, she would call her mom, but Sun Young comforted Lisa, saying that she was happy just to be by Lisa's side. She warmly told Lisa, "You don't need to force yourself to get your daughter's recognition." Sun Young couldn't suppress the joy in her heart, secretly shedding tears of happiness. The next morning, to untie the knot in her own heart, Lisa took her daughter back to Sun Young's hometown. And this trip home also successfully untied the knot in her heart. Lisa visited Ran's mother, who had long suffered from memory loss but unexpectedly learned a truth. It turned out that the person who had poisoned her since she was a child, thrown her into cold water to dry, pushed her down the mountainside, wasn't Sun Young, but her stepmother. At this moment, Lisa finally understood, so it wasn't that Sun Young always wanted to abandon her. Sun Young, you can't be Lisa's mother. Lisa is a smart child. If you don't want to ruin her future, you can't be her mother. The old woman's words, whether unintentional or deliberate, made Lisa completely understand she had misunderstood her mother for 30 years. But back in the old house, she could see Sun Young's presence everywhere. When she was little, her mother would happily cook her favorite malt candy. She would sit peacefully at the door of her room, cleaning her earwax, picking flowers together, happily playing under the pear tree. The beautiful memories simultaneously flashed before her eyes, and Lisa felt incredibly self-reproachful. Pear blossoms bloomed and faded many times, but she never returned. She once told Sun Young that she would come back when the pear blossoms were in full bloom. But that was just a lie, a way to justify leaving home. This time, as the pear blossoms bloomed, she finally understood the longing her mother felt for her. Yet, she had always resented her mother. Now, Lisa was heartbroken, blaming herself for not understanding her mother's love. Under the beautiful pear tree, Lisa burst into tears, feeling guilty towards her mother. At the same time, the knot that had been in her heart for decades finally loosened. When Lisa returned to Go-man's house, a beautiful pear tree greeted her. Lisa, having released the tension in her heart, couldn't hold back any longer and ran to hug her mother. Finally, she called out, "Mom." She called the woman she had looked down on for decades, Mom. "Until the day I die, I will call you Mom. You are my mom. I'll risk my life to call you Mom." The long-suffering mother and daughter were finally reunited. Go-man was also moved to tears, celebrating this touching moment. Go-man specially invited them out for a day of fun. While Sun Young took Dat Buell to ride a roller coaster, Go-man suddenly wanted to talk to Lisa. It turned out he had intentionally prepared a ring he wanted Lisa to see. Blushing, Go-man stammered to Lisa that he wanted to propose to Sun Young. Lisa wore a surprised expression. Why would a wealthy man with hundreds of billions in assets be interested in her simple-minded mother? Go-man shyly told Lisa that he didn't know why, he just liked her. He also felt that Sun Young was like his own mother. Being around Sun Young felt like being with family. It felt warm. "I want to become Sun Young's family. I also want to become Lisa's father and Dat Buell's grandfather." Lisa felt happy and also told Go-man about Sun Young's situation, that Sun Young had been sexually assaulted and gave birth to Lisa. To this day, she still doesn't know who Lisa's father is. She was worried Go-man would mind. To ease Lisa's worries, Go-man expressed his sincerity. He said he had already guessed it, but it wasn't Sun Young's fault. After hearing Go-man's sincere words, Lisa happily said she would support their marriage. However, after a series of joyful events, tragedy struck. Dat Buell accidentally discovered her mother's heart transplant application. Being the genius child she was, she knew what the document meant. "Is my mom going to die? Will she die if she doesn't get a heart transplant?" Go-man suddenly realized Dat Buell knew about Lisa's condition. Before Dat Buell's tearful plea, Go-man didn't choose to lie to her, but honestly told Dat Buell the truth. Lisa was flustered. When they returned home, Go-man reminded her that Dat Buell was a genius and that she shouldn't disappoint her. But Lisa didn't understand Go-man's words. After returning to her room, Lisa, afraid that her daughter would worry, pretended to be very healthy. She told her daughter that she had a condition and had applied for a heart transplant, but after the examination, there was nothing seriously wrong. "Even if I don't get a heart transplant, nothing bad will happen." Knowing Dat Buell was aware of the truth, she had said she wouldn't lie to Dat Buell. Dat Buell knew her mother was lying because she was worried. She didn't expose her mother's lie and gave her a warm hug. After dinner, while talking to Go-man, she learned that Go-man had told Dat Buell that she only had 3 months to live. Lisa suddenly realized she had made a serious mistake. So her daughter wouldn't be disappointed in her, she bravely told Dat Buell the truth. "I'm very sick, so I applied for a heart transplant. My heart can only last for 3 months at most." Lisa assured Dat Buell that even though she only had 3 months, she wouldn't give up. She hoped they could work together to help her beat the illness. But Dat Buell didn't blame her mother for lying. Instead, she felt sad that her mother was sick. Lisa hugged the crying Dat Buell, comforting her and saying that she would be okay. She also promised to always be by her side. But as the mother and daughter were heartbroken, Cha Shin showed up to cause trouble. She was frustrated for not being able to take revenge at the wedding dress fashion show. So Tsai Young-do continued to find bad news about Lisa in order to exact revenge. Young-do, overhearing from Lisa's primary doctor, learned that Lisa had a heart condition and only 3 months left to live. Upon discovering Lisa's illness, Young-do deliberately arranged to meet her, goading and provoking her in an attempt to make her angry. He used Lisa's sickness as a pretext to try and take custody of Dat Buell. Lisa, infuriated by his actions, rejected Youngdoo's unreasonable demand. She vehemently declared that she would never give up Dat Buell, that she would stay by her daughter's side forever, until she got married and had children of her own, and would absolutely not hand her over to anyone. She said, "Don't you know about my health? As for my health, believe me, there's nothing wrong. Before I need a heart transplant, I can definitely hold on. Don't worry about me, I won't die. I'll definitely try to live longer. Worry about yourself first." As Lisa left, Youngdoo warned her, if her condition worsened, he would take Dat Buell. In reality, Youngdoo was intentionally agitating her, forcing Lisa to carry this burden of responsibility and continue fighting for her life. One storm passed, but another arrived. The three had finally experienced a normal, happy life. But fate had other plans. Sun Young suddenly started experiencing constant nausea and a splitting headache. As she got up to open the door, everything in front of her became blurry. Sun Young turned to reach for Go-Man's hand, only to realize that she couldn't see anything. At that moment, Go-Man also recognized something was wrong. Tears welled up in his eyes as he quickly took Sun Young's hand and placed it on his cheek. "I'm here. I'm right here." Immediately after, Sun Young's consciousness began to fade. She fainted in Go-Man's arms. Sun Young was rushed to the hospital for tests that very night, but the results were devastating. Sun Young was diagnosed with a brain tumor. This terrible news shattered Go-Man. He couldn't accept this cruel reality. His hand, leaning on his cane, trembled uncontrollably, his mouth twitched, and the feeling of suffocating restraint overwhelmed him with sorrow. Go-Man naively believed that surgery could cure Sun Young, but he was told that the tumor had become malignant, and even surgery wouldn't restore her health. His last hope was crushed. Go-Man completely broke down. Tears streamed down his face as he begged the doctor to save Sun Young. Unable to restrain himself, he recounted Sun Young's tragic situation. As he spoke, Go-Man's emotions became increasingly agitated. The suffocating pressure made it hard for him to breathe. He tried to use his hundreds of billions in assets to plead with the doctor to save Sun Young's life. "Director, you know I have a lot of money, right? I'll give you all of it. Please." But reality was harsh. The director was helpless. Go-Man agonizingly reproached him. "You haven't even tried. Why do you want to give up already?" Countless whys escaped his lips, along with countless pleas. A wave of despair washed over him again and again. Abandoning his usual arrogance, he didn't hesitate to kneel and beg the doctor to save the foolish woman he loved. Sun Young happened to see this scene as she walked by. Go-Man was nearly out of breath, pleading, "Director, please consider it as saving my life, as saving Go-Man's life." The naive Sun Young, hearing Go-Man's tearful pleas, mistakenly thought he was terminally ill. She sobbed, embraced him, and comforted him, promising to cure him, to search the entire Jihai region for medicine, just like her father did. Sun Young's concern only deepened Go-Man's pain. He couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth, and could only weep, hiding the fact that she had cancer. When he got home, he emotionally recounted the illness to Lisa and Dat Buell. But Go-Man went alone to a bar to drown his sorrows. When Go-Man returned, he found them waiting in front of the house. Dat Buell even gave him a warm hug. He had been an orphan since he was a child. In that moment, he finally felt the warmth of family, a warmth that filled his heart. Sun Young, thinking Go-Man was terminally ill, went out of her way to cook him a lavish meal. A simple bean sprout dish made Go-Man feel overflowing with happiness, and he gave Sun Young a thumbs up. Watching Sun Young leave, the feeling of heartbreak surged again. He wouldn't be able to eat this delicious, happiness-filled meal anymore. To soothe the somber atmosphere at home, Dat Buell, along with a friend, organized a small musical performance for their family. They celebrated Grandma and Mom finally finding each other, and also comforted Go-Man. "Grandma, Mom and I will always be by your side." But such happy times are always short-lived. Sun Young's condition was getting worse. She now urgently needed chemotherapy to fight the cancer as quickly as possible, so that her life would have a chance to be extended a bit. Knowing that Sun Young's time was limited, a feeling of heartbreak overwhelmed him again. He looked at Sun Young, still unaware, and decided he had to create beautiful moments for her in this short time. Go-Man drove a fancy car, took her out for gas station food, went for drives to get some air, planning to propose to the woman he loved. Because Sun Young wasn't used to wearing high heels, he bought her sneakers and thoughtfully tied her shoelaces. Although she was developmentally delayed, she could still feel Go-Man's thoughtful care. Happiness welled up inside her as Go-Man looked at her, while she was embarrassed and deliberately avoided his gaze. While walking together, Sun Yung spontaneously took Go-Man's hand. At this moment, Go-Man revealed a happy smile, because he knew Sun Yung had accepted him. Go-Man also took the opportunity to kiss Sun Yung, but ended up kissing her ice cream instead. In this moment of happiness, Go-Man took out the ring he had carefully prepared to propose to Sun Yung. However, she suddenly fainted. Go-Man rushed to pick Sun Yung up in his arms, trying to wake his silly goddess, but Sun Yung was no longer conscious. Go-Man suddenly remembered the doctor's warning: if Sun Yung lost consciousness again, chemotherapy had to be started immediately. Go-Man was anxious and shouted, begging passers-by for help, but everyone stayed away, not daring to approach. At the same time, Lisa also learned about Sun Yung's illness. She leaned against the wall, overcome with despair. After calling an ambulance, Lisa sat down on the ground, crying, and spoke her heartfelt confession to the unconscious Sun Yung. She took out the ring she had prepared long ago, put it on Sun Yung's ring finger, and asked, "Will you marry me?" Go-Man said, choking back tears, to the unconscious Sun Yung, "Now you're wearing my ring, you can't leave me without my permission," he cried, calling out to Sun Yung, and kissed her hand affectionately. At this moment, the ambulance arrived, but on the way to the hospital, Sun Yung suddenly woke up. She looked at the ring on her hand, bewildered. Go-Man, embarrassed, lied and said that he had just won it in a 1001 raffle. On the way, Go-Man's naive older sister still vaguely believed him, unaware that the ring she was wearing was real, worth hundreds of millions. Lisa knew her mother had cancer. After getting home, she angrily went to find Go-Man, blaming him for not telling her about her mother's illness, why he took it upon himself to hide the truth. She even felt that Go-Man didn't see her as family. Lisa angrily wanted to move out. Go-Man, with tears in his eyes, apologized to Lisa to get her to stay and explained, if Sun Yung does chemotherapy, she definitely needs someone to protect her. And Lisa might need surgery too. I was afraid the condition would worsen, so I chose to hide it. Finally, Go-Man sincerely expressed, as far as I'm concerned, Lisa's whole family has become the most important people in my life. This statement also brought Lisa to tears. For the first time, she truly felt her father's love. Lisa returned to her room and saw her mother lying on the bed, unable to hold back her tears. She blamed herself for always refusing to acknowledge that this silly mother of hers was the cause of her mother's illness. There were still so many things she wanted to do with her mother, and she hadn't even told her, "I love you." While Lisa was blaming herself, Sun Yung suddenly started sleepwalking and sat up. Lisa heard her crying. "Mommy, please turn on the light for me, okay? I hear Lisa crying, and it's too dark in the room. I'm scared." Even in her dreams, her mother was still worried about her. Lisa couldn't help but cover her mouth, overwhelmed by the love of her silly mother. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore, ran out of the room, and burst into sobs. At this moment, Lisa's emotions were a jumble. There was being touched, heartbreak, and a lot of guilt for previously hating her mother. The only thing Lisa could do now was to try her best to make her mother happy, to make up for the regret of not being by her side for the past 30 years. She took her mother to the beach, and the two of them held hands, happily playing by the seashore like children. But just when they were happy, another heartbreaking thing happened before their eyes. Sun Yung suddenly became blurry and unable to hold Lisa's hand. After finally managing to grasp her daughter's hand, she unexpectedly fainted. Lisa saw her mother faint before her eyes for the first time, and she panicked. No matter how much Lisa and Zier called out to her, Sun Yung remained unconscious. After receiving Lisa's call, Go-Man immediately arranged for Sun Yung to be admitted to the hospital, but her condition had worsened at this point. She needed timely surgery to determine the location of the tumor, so that a precise chemotherapy and radiation therapy plan could be developed. Lisa had wanted to make her mother happy, so she took her out for a trip, but it had put her life in danger. Therefore, she felt very guilty. Go-Man, like a father, waved to Lisa. Although he himself was in pain, he used his broad shoulders to comfort Lisa like a father would. The surgery was successful, but the prognosis was still not optimistic. Even with simultaneous chemotherapy and radiation therapy, she could only live for a maximum of 2 years. Hearing this bad news, Lisa completely collapsed, but she still didn't arrange chemotherapy for Sun Yung, hoping to postpone it for a few days. She hoped Sun Yung wouldn't become unsightly due to chemotherapy before she could help her mother wear the beautiful wedding dress. Jiha couldn't refuse Lisa's filial piety, so he promised to help her postpone the chemotherapy date. The billionaire took his newlywed wife on a honeymoon. However, he wasn't happy at all. In fact, he was incredibly stressed. It turned out that Go-Man had learned that the developmentally challenged woman's daughter had a heart condition and wouldn't live much longer. Furthermore, the developmentally challenged woman with brain cancer also didn't have much time left. In an instant, Go-Man felt trapped in a dilemma. If he went to see Lisa, Sun Yung would desperately ask him to give her heart to the daughter. Having to part ways after only a few hours of marriage was something Go-Man couldn't accept. But if he didn't go back, not only would Sun Yung hate him, but his conscience would also be plagued with guilt. After careful consideration, Go-Man, with tears in his eyes, told Sun Yung about Lisa's condition. He took Sun Yung's hand and left the airport, abandoning their honeymoon, returning to the hospital filled with sorrow. At that moment, Lisa's heart suddenly stopped beating. Doctors performed countless rounds of CPR and managed to revive her, but this was only temporary. If Lisa didn't receive a heart transplant within 10 hours, her heart would stop beating forever. He went to find his daughter, comforting and instructing Dat Buell to live well with her mother from now on, and to absolutely never upset her. After saying this, he left Dat Buell's sight, walking dejectedly down the dark road, recalling all the mistakes he had made. He had finally realized the error of his ways. In his hand, he held the organ donation form to donate his heart to Lisa, consumed by deep regret. He put the form in his pocket and took off his glasses. At this moment, he wanted to be a good father, and also to fulfill his final responsibility as a husband. Young-do, devastated, stepped out into the middle of the road, standing amidst the cars, inviting death's judgment. But in the nick of time, the driver happened to be Go-Man, who was hurrying home. Go-Man knew Young-do's intentions, sternly scolded him, and then brought him back to the hospital. Sun Yung watched her daughter lying in the hospital bed, heartbroken. She cried out her daughter's name, silently watching over her all night long. At this moment, Sun Yung's headache became even more severe, but she didn't feel the pain and instead smiled. It had been a long time coming, but she was finally able to save her daughter. Sun Yung got up, her body aching, and went to find Ji-ha. She pleaded with him to love Lisa well in the future. Ji-ha also shed tears, promising his mother-in-law and swearing that he would definitely love Lisa. At this point, Sun Yung couldn't hold on any longer. As she bowed to thank Ji-ha, 2 drops of fresh blood fell straight to the floor, and blood was all around her nose. After arranging treatment for Sun Yung, Ji-ha immediately called Go-Man, but Sun Young's test results were heartbreaking for everyone. All of Sun Young's cerebral blood vessels had ruptured. She was now unconscious, in a state of brain death. Go-Man, with tears in his eyes, decided to act on Sun Young's behalf and donate her heart to Lisa. The doctor unexpectedly found a letter in Sun Young's coat pocket. It turned out that while watching over her daughter, Sun Yung had written a will for Go-Man. "After meeting you, I lived incredibly happy days. I'll wait for you to finish this trip, and then I will be your wife. I love you." Go-Man completely broke down after reading Sun Young's letter. He couldn't restrain himself any longer and burst into heartbroken sobs. At the same time, Lisa seemed to see her mother's soul bidding her farewell, and miraculously woke up. Ji-ha didn't tell Lisa about Sun Young's brain death, and knowing that he was lying, told her that a donor heart had been found. Lisa blinked, filled with hope, looking forward to living a happy life with her mother and daughter after she recovered. But she didn't know that her mother had left her forever. When Lisa, full of hope, was wheeled into the operating room, she suddenly recognized a familiar hand. That beautiful hand, it was her mother just now. "Mom, is that you?" Lisa saw her mother being taken into the operating room. She immediately understood everything, utterly devastated. No matter what, she didn't want to accept her mother's heart. Lisa felt she had forced her mother to die. She'd rather die with her mother than receive her heart. But due to being too emotionally distraught, Lisa fainted on the hospital bed. Finally, she was wheeled into the operating room. Lisa successfully completed the surgery, but there was no smile on her face. She wept, saying goodbye to her mother. After recovering, Lisa returned to her normal life. Although Go-Man had lost Sun Yung, he still hoped that Lisa and Dat Buell could become part of his family. He asked Lisa to stay there from now on, so they could live happily as a family. "Of course, my father is here, where else would I go?" Hearing Lisa's answer, Go-Man was overjoyed. Finally, to be able to stay by Sun Young's side forever, Go-Man painted himself and Sun Yung on the painting that Sun Yung had left behind. This image would forever remain in his thoughts. Elsewhere, Youngdu went to find Ki-rin. Having nothing left, they finally let go of their prejudices and stopped taking advantage of each other, genuinely accepting one another. They also decided to change and become new people, trying to make up for the mistakes they had made to Lisa's family. Finally, Lisa took Dat-byul back to her hometown. In front of her mother's grave, she told her mother how much she missed her. Even though her mother was in her heart, she still missed her very much. Lisa finally found genuine love. She and Ji-ha kissed under the beautiful pear tree in the garden. This just shows how sacred maternal love is. Only parents wholeheartedly love their children unconditionally. Even if we encounter terrible pressures outside of society, there will always be welcoming arms when we return home.